Welcome to the December 13th Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the list of attendees so we know who's regularly been joining. And I'll pause here. We have the usual agenda, but if there's something you want to add that isn't on there, you can either speak up now or add it into the any other business section at the end. No lightning talk this week. If you have one you'd like to give, reach out to me. We'll get it scheduled. Let's take a look at the recent end user issues. So it looks like there's only one that's come in since the last community call. It's like a native memory leak. But good that we're looking at that. Anything else in this list that needs some discussion? And we'll jump back to the agenda. The AArch 64 Sumru builds from 035, are they still delayed?
Yes, they are.
We have a timeline on when they might be available?
Nope.
The 036 release, Pete, have you updated this? Is the two issues accurate still?
Yeah, it's updated. So the blocker's resolved. It needs to be ported to 036, which will probably happen today. And then there's an OpenSSL memory leak that you saw in the user-raised issues. Still undecided if we can fix that for 036 or not. We're going to wait and see if we get a fix and what the risk of that fix is.
Okay, and so we're waiting on the M2 start until that blocker's in, and we've made a decision on the OpenSSL piece.
I think just for the blocker, once the blocker's merged, although there was talk about some FIPS changes may needing to get in, so I might wait for those before we start M2.
But it sounds like we're still in pretty good state for this.
We're back in good state. We weren't for a while.
Sounds like we will skip. Let's skip over 037 and we'll talk about Java 19.
And so, just FYI, I renamed the 37 milestone and just called it Java 20, same as we have a Java 19 milestone.
Is the 10 issues here accurate as well?
Yeah, it's up to date.
Excellent. Why don't we just take a look at that issue plan and see where we're at then? How many of these are considered blockers at this point for us being able to release a Java 19?
I don't have a number. I know some of them are. I believe we have 3 fixes pending from the JIT team that we think might happen soonish.
I see 3 of these have pull requests open against them.
I guess those would be the 3. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Jack, do you have an update on how the Loom side is looking?
Yes, Dan. So currently with Loom, there's I guess 3 issues that we're focusing on mainly. One is the JIT code category claim, which not accounting for the stack that has been allocated from continuation. PR is open for that, currently waiting for Daryl to complete his review before we can merge it. There is also a issue with balance GC under stress tests with JIT enabled. We're still working with Lynn to debug that one and testing out different fixes. That's what I have in terms of from the VMs that we've been collaborating with JIT and GC team. I know there's also another one that Daryl is looking at from the JIT side. I don't have an update on that. I guess I'll see if Daryl's on the call.
I don't see Daryl.
Uh,
I was going to ask about testing then.
For testing, we're waiting for the changes to be reviewed by Daryl before we can enable some of the stress testing. As currently it fails, I think 90% of the time without that change.
All right, so it sounds like we need those fixes in before we can start to talk about a date to ship this.
Yeah.
Cheng, how's the Panama side going?
Can you hear me? That
Yes.
okay. We last week we so far we still have one use in open. We have 19. Not what's going on. In terms of that, we're still working on the OGD Mexicana Evo basic problem with connecting the blocks out there. So they try to figure out that's not too much update.
Okay. So certainly not shipping before January 17th. That's when the 1902 release goes out. How close to that date do we currently believe we can get, or have you guys had some discussions internally yet about when we would be targeting a release?
I think we need to wait till January and for all the fixes that are in progress to get in and unexclude the rest of the tests and run all the testing properly. And there's going to be not much going on, I think, until about the second week of January. People are starting to disappear on vacation.
When you're saying we need to re-enable all the tests and do another run of testing, it sounds like you're expecting more issues to show up there, or that we don't have confidence in what we've tested so far.
Well, we're running a subset of the tests, and we still are seeing some of the failures happening in that subset. There's some tests that aren't being run externally, like special system. And then there's some tests that are still excluded because we know they fail. So we can get things enabled and the fixes in and do like an M1 build where we run everything and triage everything and make sure everything looks good. That all needs to happen.
Okay. So it seems like we're too early to really start putting a date on the Java 19 release then.
Yeah, even though some of the fixes are in progress, I'm not sure how that's going to play out with people starting to disappear on vacation.
Yep.
I think because of COVID, people haven't been taking all their vacation, and so they've got a bunch accrued for the end that they need to take at the end of the year.
So some extra long breaks here. Okay. All right. Is there anything else we want to touch on for the release schedules? Just a reminder to please use the backport candidate and the JDK 19 tags on the issues that are going in so that we can easily find them and import them into a Java 19 branch. All right. Do we have an update from the Adopt folks? Adam, do we have an update on the infrastructure?
So Artifactory Space, we requested another terabyte from OSU, and they allocated it to our quota. So I was just going through and trying to figure out how to expand that. Doesn't appear to be an option to expand the existing drive on the GUI, so I'm going to have to go back to them for help. So that'll help alleviate some of our concerns about space, and especially with new LTS coming up, we're going to have more versions than ever. For the Windows machines, we merged in our PR to make those changes about rebuilding. That's good. We cloned out all the machines. So I think there's 10 new machines total. Most of them are in the pool for tests. I think they still need to be added to the pool for build. So I'm going to coordinate with Pete either today or shortly to add those in. And then once we're happy with them, we can turn off the old ones. And then once we're still happy, then we can delete the old ones. 2 of the machines are already shared with Omar. So I'll put those 2 particular ones in the Slack channel, just as a keep an eye on these ones in particular kind of thing. So that'll be 2 Z-Linux, 1 ArchMac, and 2 Windows now that are all being shared. So the issues we've seen with the other ones seem to be resolved if we run with a XMX of 1 gig on the Jenkins agents on both sides. So that seems to have resolved all those issues we've seen so far. So we'll see if Windows has any new issues we haven't seen yet. That's about it from infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is that, sorry, I was on mute when you mentioned the adopt update, and I am here for once. But there's an issue with the CUDA toolkit download as well on Windows that we've had for a while. I had a discussion with Adam and Keith earlier. We're going to try using the version for Windows 10 because the version for Windows Server 2012 of CUDA 9.0 no longer exists. The Windows 10 installer complains about the Windows version, not necessarily surprisingly. So we are going to go ahead with trying 9.1 instead, which will have associated implications on what people could necessarily use to run it on. But Keith's raised an issue on that at the project.
Were you going to do a PR for that, Stuart?
I've got someone else on my team that's working on it at the moment to verify it, and then we'll get PR in for that in the infrastructure repository.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Stuart?
But that doesn't affect Semru builds or OpenJ9 builds. I don't think
it's not a build thing as much as the machine setup thing. So we just happened to run the playbooks when we were setting up our Windows machines just before that link disappeared. So we didn't get bit by it. So when you're setting up a machine and running the playbooks, it pulls an installer from the NVIDIA site, and it disappeared a couple weeks ago. So we had opened an issue on their forums to complain and say, can you put these back? And they didn't get a response, so we're just going to move up to a newer version.
Yeah, it'd be nice to give some warning rather than just change the January release to be built on a newer version.
So it sounded like Adam creating the images from a fixed version that has the old one anyway at the moment. So I suspect January won't be affected, but I'll let him talk to it.
Yeah, because their machine's already set up, they'll still be using the old one. It would only change if we needed to build new machines someday for Semru, which I don't have any plans for that at this point in time. But when we do change it, we'll have long forgotten about this issue. So I think Keith had opened an issue on OpenJ9 to make some kind of announcement about it now.
Yeah, I did create the issue, and so the intent was to, put it in the release notes or whatever that someone wanting to use CUDA would need to have the threshold would be slightly bigger for the runtime dependency. But Stuart, so you said that trying to use the installer on a different version of Windows just doesn't work? Like the 9.0 from
Yeah,
when Win 10 didn't work on 2012 or whatever version it was?
correct. Yes, I've asked the person that ran it to post a screenshot into the
There's
issue. But yeah, I've seen it. It's just refused.
some of the installers have like a force or whatever option. Did you try that? Maybe just tell it like never mind the version.
It didn't seem to have such an option, but I can ask him to double check it.
And the installer has an option just because we only care about the toolkit. And so if the version problem is with the driver, we don't care about that. I'm hoping we don't have to give up on 9.0. I guess it's the short version.
Maybe then holding on to something that's so old and NVIDIA doesn't even want to provide it anymore, we should.
Well, they still provide it for some platforms, like Windows 10 and Linux, but apparently they don't provide it for Windows 2012.
It doesn't seem like the link disappearing was intentional.
Okay.
My interpretation.
Sort of a meta question on this. How much usage do we have of the CUDA support? Do we have any indication that it's actually being used by end users?
I don't know how we would tell. I mean,
I don't know that we get any. Don't know that we get any issues or problems reported against it.
Okay.
Just that good.
Don't see Marius on the call, so we'll skip over the JIT server update. The next microJIT meeting is the 15th. Toby, is there something you wanted to bring up for CRIU support?
Yeah, so we're looking at turning it on in Headstream. So we're just making sure that that the JDK Next, JDK 19 are all at the same level as JDK 17 and 11. And once we've verified that, then we can begin the process there. Yeah, not too much else to discuss at this time.
Daryl's not on the call, and it's the wrong time zone for Son, so probably can skip over the Mac M1 work as well. Erwin, did you have an update on the options deprecation discussion?
Still just waiting on review.
Sorry, I missed that.
Nothing. But yeah, it's just doc's good. We can.
Any other items that we want to discuss this week?
I don't know if you're able to hear Erwin. There's a PR open, and he's waiting for reviews. I don't think anybody's made any comments about the deprecation doc he wrote, so nobody's going to comment on it. I guess we could just merge it.
Apologies, I did not see miss the @ on this.
Okay, so we'll wait for a little more time and see if people have comments.
I've definitely gone over and seen typos. So at the very least, I need to go and but I just didn't do it because I didn't want to start something.
You have to go over it and do what?
Fix typos.
Oh, typos.
Yeah, there's a couple of typos in there I got to fix.
Any other topics that we want to discuss this week? Then for anyone who won't be joining next week due to vacations, have a happy holidays. Enjoy your time off. Next week is probably the last one of these calls for the year. So, yeah, enjoy your holidays if you're on holidays already, and otherwise we'll see you again next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.